Hey guys, it's Valkrin. Today I want to talk about something that has been on my mind for a while, and it's my firm belief that Kassadin is currently the strongest solo queue champion. The goal of this presentation is not only to spread awareness of why Kassadin is so effective, but also kind of a call to arms to bring down Kassadin's power. Now first up, I want to talk about Kassadin's history. Now this is the patch notes that have involved Kassadin since 2011. And what I have outlined in blue is a time period that I remember personally that Kassadin was completely permanently banned in solo queue and high elo. Back then, Kassadin was firmly believed to be one of the most annoying champions to play against because he's very mobile and a lot of other things that I'll mention later in the video. But I just want to bring up the fact that right now in Kassadin's current state, he's banned almost constantly in Diamond and Challenger, and in the past he was as well, and nothing's really happened to Kassadin. So there was a gap where Kassadin was kind of forgotten about, and now people have rediscovered Kassadin. So I just want to go through a quick graph that outlines Kassadin's win rate through Diamond, all regions. Now this is just a daily win rate, so it's not exactly the best average system that you can see, but I just wanted to show a graphical representation of pretty much how Kassadin's been doing in Diamond ELO. And as you can see, it hovers quite a bit between 55% down to 50%. And that's a really high win rate. So just keep that in mind. Now next up, I want to talk about broad differences between Kassadin and other AP carries that are considered strong in solo queue. I think Kassadin can fulfill every single one of these roles as well as, if not better than, other comparable champions. Kassadin has insane scaling on par with Karthus and Ryze. He has a snowball potential, equivalent to a Fizz. A Kassadin can get rolling really easily early game. The mobility that Kassadin offers is pretty much on par with ours. Lane safety, Kassadin fills every single one of these. Kassadin's incredibly hard to gank. He's mobile, he can snowball, and he can scale. So let's get into more specifics on why Kassadin's so strong. Well, I have Kassadin's kill combo. Now this is a late game kill combo and like a late game team fight. So what this means is Kassadin's able to initiate a team fight, lock down one target and a group of people with his slow, ignite one target, Hourglass when they choose to target him. Hourglass lasts, the duration. Then after that, he can choose to flash and rift walk to safety. Now, the time periods between you can Hourglass, flash, and rift walk is very, very brief, and it allows very small amount of time to counterplay it. So let's get into the numbers that I believe are sort of off whack. Now let's start with his passive. Kassadin's passive is collectively believed to be one of the weaker passives in the game, but it's my firm belief that Kassadin's passive is actually pretty good on his kit. 15% reduced magic damage, that's not a whole lot, but it also works really well with Kassadin's Netherblade. Now late game, Kassadin's Netherblade has 90 base damage and 0.3 AP ratio scaling. So if you get a ton of attack speed like you can from Voidstone, you can assassinate targets very easily because how much damage Netherblade's going to bring in addition to Null Sphere and Force Pulse. I think Netherblade is an underrated ability of Kassadin's because it allows him to safely last hit under the turret. Of course the mana restore on the ability isn't the best, but the whole point of this ability is you take it at rank 2 because if you start getting pushed in, then you can easily and safely last hit under your tower because you can one hit the caster minion and you can safely take CS early game. Next up, let's look at Null Sphere. Now this ability is probably Kassadin's bread and butter of knocking people out of lane, shutting people down. This is one of Kassadin's core reasons why he's overpowered besides his ultimate. The range on Null Sphere is too long. The cooldown is too short. It's only 9 seconds and it doesn't even scale. This could easily be raised to a higher level at rank 1 and maybe scale it down. The AP ratio is definitely way too high for an ability that brings a 2.6 seconds, silence. Now the silence duration, this definitely needs to be hit hard. I would probably have it 2 seconds at max rank. Now, it's going to hurt Kassadin, but there's so much room for Kassadin to be reduced in power. Force Pulse. I think this ability also needs to be hit really hard. Now we look at it at rank 1, it slows for 30% for 3 seconds. Of course, this is a weird ability that requires other abilities to be cast in order to cast it, but it only has a 6-second cooldown. This ability could be touched up in so many different ways to balance it. The mana cost could be raised, the cooldown could be raised, the AP ratio could be lowered, the slow duration could be lowered at earlier ranks. This ability just brings way too much to the table, But the whole reason why it's so powerful is because it requires 6 spells to be cast around Kassadin. During mid-game team fights and late-game team fights, this ability is constantly up, and it does too much for the low cooldown. Riftwalk. Now this is where Kassadin needs to be hit the hardest. At max rank, Riftwalk is 5 seconds. With max cooldown reduction, that's 3 seconds. So you have a 3-second, 700 range blink. Of course, it costs 100 mana and it scales up with mana per use, but it's got such ridiculous damage on this ability. This is why Kassadin stacks so much mana, is because this ability does a ton of damage, and a lot of people don't realize how much damage it can do. I mean, of course, it scales up to an absurd amount if you have enough mana. If this ability didn't do damage at all, I would still think this is one of the strongest abilities in the game. Just to blink around, you know, on a 5-second cooldown at max rank, it does 700 range. It's like, what the heck? Like, why does this ability even do damage? Like, that, it just boggles my mind. Let's look at his base stats. I think his movement speed, his base movement speed is way too high. It can be lowered to 330 easily. Other casters, of course, are at 330. The reason why Kassadin's at 340 is because he's a melee champion, but I mean, he's a roam style champion, so if you want to cut down on his mobility, this would be a good area to do that in. Now, another weird thing about Kassadin is he does get scaling magic resist. I feel like Kassadin counters casters well enough. His entire kit is based around completely shutting down casters in lane. Now, giving him scaling magic resist per level, that might be too much. I don't know. You could maybe leave that in if you nerfed everything else, but something has to go with Kassadin. The ways you can shut down Kassadin involve teamwork. You have to have your AD carry and support mid. You have to pressure his tower early. There are a lot of things that have to happen. Otherwise, Kassadin's just going to snowball and carry the game. And even if you do 1v2 in mid, it's still very difficult to completely and utterly shut him down because Kassadin just does way too much. Let me know what you guys think about this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.